In the last video, we took you through 7 primary concerns most sellers have during the onboarding process. We also showed how you, a seller network participant, could address these concerns. So, what's next? Well, if you have convinced your sellers to get onboarded and answered their critical concerns, it's time to collect important details from the sellers so you don't face any operational challenges or delays in the process of onboarding. Asking the right questions helps you do so. Here are some questions that can give you all the information you need from your sellers. Let's start with some basic information. What is the name of the seller? The name of his or her business and his or her PAN card details. Next, what is the seller's GSTIN? Before we move on to details on other mandatory information, let's first take you through the benefits of GST. Broadly speaking, GST helps the seller optimize his business. How? It provides legitimacy. GST registration gives informal workers or businesses in the unorganized sector legal recognition and legitimacy. This can help in building trust with customers and suppliers and can also make it easier to obtain loans or credit from banks. It increases competitiveness, which is good for business. Registered businesses can compete on a level playing field with organized businesses as they will be able to pass on the GST benefits to their customers. It brings ease in business. GST registration makes it easier to do business with other registered entities as there is no need to deal with multiple indirect tax authorities. It provides access to government schemes. Registered businesses can avail of various government schemes and benefits which can help in their growth and expansion. Other mandatory information required is what is the seller's fulfillment coverage? This is required for defining the serviceability of the seller. The seller's PIN code and address. This is required for order pickup by logistics seller network participant or off-network logistics. In case the location lacks a structured address, then location data in the form of latitude or longitude or a nearby landmark should also be captured. Other essential details to gather from your sellers include the promised and mutually agreed upon shipping time, the specific product categories they are interested in selling, and detailed information about each stock keeping unit, SKU, along with the selling price necessary for the creation of an online catalog. If you'd like to know more about this, watch our video on catalog creation. What other details would you need to know about the seller? Is the seller already selling online? If they are, then their familiarity with e-commerce practices could expedite the training process. Check the seller's training requirement for updating inventory and price. This is required for ensuring correct information on availability and price. Check the seller's training requirement for order processing. This is required for processing orders smoothly. Check the seller's understanding of commissions and cost of operations related to packaging, returns, damages, etc. This is required to ensure that there are no post-order issues and, if there are, how to handle those. Who is the seller's single point of contact for all business discussions? Their name, contact number, and email. This information is for all discussions on growth and business. Who is the seller's single point of contact for operations? Their name, contact number, and email. Their logistics pickup. Who will follow up on order processing, etc. This information is required for managing operations and buyer escalations. The seller's bank details. A cancelled bank check should provide you with all the account details. Other details such as category-specific requirements. For example, the seller's FSSAI license number is required for food and beverage sellers. Under e-commerce rules, you also need office contact details for any grievance redressal. So far, you learned about some key aspects of the seller onboarding process, how to convince your sellers, and how to address their concerns. In this video, we explained some of the important details you need to register and onboard your cluster of sellers. Once the seller network participant has all the information, he or she can then proceed with onboarding sellers by registering them on his or her seller network participant and creating a digital catalog for the seller. Before we wrap up this video, we request that you take a moment to review the following disclaimer. Please note that it is the seller network participant's responsibility to do due diligence on their sellers. The seller network participant has to ensure that the seller has all the necessary permits and licenses to sell their products online and that the seller complies with all applicable laws and regulations in the course of operations. The seller network participant also has to ensure that the products being listed by their onboarded seller are allowed to be sold online. Finally, it is the seller network participant's responsibility to ensure that the seller makes all declarations and disclosures that are mandatory under the applicable laws. With that, we come to the end of this chapter on collecting information and details about the seller at onboarding. The next video is about catalog creation. This involves creating a digital database of the products the seller wants to sell through the seller network participant. If you wish to know all about digital catalog creation, you can check the video on this topic.